This is Diana Sullivan in Austin, Texas. Today I'm doing a ribber project that makes a stole, a kind of long, flat, rectangular shawl. And it's going to be lacy. It's also going to be fluffier or a little bit furry. I'm using a worsted weight brushed acrylic yarn. This one's called Penguin Moose. I don't know that it's available anymore. But some other yarns in that category would be Lion Brand Jiffy, or Reynolds Kitten, or Unger's Fluffy. In other words, a light worsted weight brushed acrylic yarn. This one needs to be acrylic because we are going to kill it at the end. The needle arrangement is from 35 left on the ribber to 35 right on the ribber. In other words, 70 stitches will be the width of the stole. I'm beginning with waste yarn, and I have the end needles on the ribber, so there is half pitch setting and one less needle up on the main bed than there is on the ribber. I've done a zigzag row with the waste yarn at the tightest tension, and now I'm going to put the comb in. When I put the comb in, I'm going to need to line it up with the main bed needles. That way these loops that are going to come off the main bed will hold the comb in wait. If I were to put the comb instead here, when those loops drop, the comb will drop. Here's how the tines of the comb are. See how they are lined up with the main bed needles? And that way, when I drop it and drop those main bed loops, the comb has something to hang on. Once my comb is in place, I'm going to use this stitch dropping tool. Run all the way across and make the stitches drop. And of course, the comb drops with the stitch. To make a better edge along the sides of the stole, I want to have two ribber needles that don't have a main bed needle to go with them instead of just one. So I'm going to push one more main bed needle out of work on the left, and I'm going to do the same thing on the right. Here's that needle on the right that needs to go back out of work. Both carriages are set for tension 2, but the main bed carriage is set to slip in both directions, so both of the part buttons are pushed in. Check your manual and see how your machine needs to be set for slipping in both directions. Now I'm knitting 10 rows of waste yarn to be unraveled later. I've just tied on the garment yarn, and I'm going to grab it with the latch tool and pull it between the beds, as I often do, to change from the waste yarn to the garment yarn. And I'll secure it below the beds with clothespin. This is a Brother 270, and it does have electronic patterning. There are lots and lots of patterns that you could use for drop lace. I have this one set on 158, and I'll bring that to the ready light, and I have the black-white reverse key pushed in as well. Now the ribber's knitting every stitch, every row, but the way that the main carriage works in slip stitch is it will only knit selected needles. I brought the carriage out past the turn mark, and I turned the wheels to KC so that it will select needles for row 1. Then I knit across selecting needles. What I'm going to watch as I knit is whether the main carriage selected needles, and those selected needles are going to have loops on them after I knit across. I am looking for the first row where it did not select needles. So I go across for this first row. Every place it selected a needle has a loop, and it selected needles again. And I knit back. When I get to a row where no needles are selected, then I'm going to drop the stitches from the main bed using that drop cam. Here's that little plastic carriage for dropping stitches. Now you could do the same job with a ruler or a needle pusher, but I just take that and I set it on the bed over to the left of the needles, And they all have to be in B position. You see, this has to be on the row where no needles were selected. And then I just scoot across and drop the stitches, and then set the little carriage aside and resume knitting. Here I've knitted a row that selected needles, and then a row that laid yarn in the needles, and then another row. And again, on this row, no needles are selected. So again, I can put the little drop carriage on and drop all the stitches. I'm going to keep going like this for a very long time because this is going to be a long stole. With this particular pattern, there is a section where I go quite a few rows selecting needles on every single row, but that's okay. I just keep knitting until I get to the row where I didn't select any needles, and on that row, with all the stitches in B position, I run the drop carriage. Now here's a caution for you. This pattern goes very, very fast. And in no time at all, I've run through a whole skein of yarn, and I have to change the yarn, so that means you've got to keep an eye on the yarn that you don't run out in the middle of a row. And additionally, I will very quickly find that my weights are on the floor, so I'm going to have to start moving up weights after, gosh, about one skein of yarn, and these were only 50-gram balls. So do keep an eye on those two issues.